Rachel.
Hello, Ryan. How you doing?
Oh, I feel like it's all coming together. My war is now your war, and your war is now my war, Rachel. The war against people who don't embrace Yum Yum into their hearts. How are you going?
Well,
Well?
today is not the day where I forgive you.
What? Do you forget?
No. I'm just gonna sadly walk out of a room.
Wistfully walk out of the room with a real sense of pathos and gravitas to it all, right? Oh, Rachel, that's your name, by the way, and my name is not Rachel. People, you can guess what it is. We're YumYumPodcast, a podcast that is reviewing and rewatching and revisiting episodes of science fiction television. We cover Star Trek Discovery and we cover Babylon 5. We are going through Babylon 5 in this moment. We are plowing our way through Season 3, and if you are worried about spoilers, you should be, because as I said, we are coming back to B5, and we are looking at it through that lens. So, you have been warned. But we are called Yum Yum, Rachel, for what reason? What's the reason? People still ask me every now and then, where did Yum Yum come from?
I don't believe that.
They do. I got someone on Twitter the other week who asked me, where's the Yum Yum thing from? And I'm like, well, there was this one moment, and what's that moment?
That moment is from Star Trek Discovery, where a individual that is part of the cast.
Are they? They're in the show, I guess.
They were cast in the show.
When you say they're part of the cast, it makes it sound like they're part of the ensemble, like a part of the actual cast of the show, not just like a random person that walks in. Like, you know...
She's a reappearing character.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Bester in this show is a part of the cast, though. He's in the show. But go on. That was
No. You can take it over.
Rachel, if you keep acting like that, I'm going to start thinking that you don't like Star Trek Discovery, where the character of Commander Nan... Well, character... The thing of Commander Nan D... No, that's two separate names, Nan and D... said Yum Yum in reply to something. Why did she say that? We'll never know. Who is she? I don't know. I've watched 4 seasons of the show. We're revisiting it. She's a lady. She's a lady with a breathing apparatus on her face. And she said Yum Yum one time, and we thought it was really bizarre. And so we carry it with us all the time, and we remind everyone that that was a moment of writing that happened. But hey, we're not just going to inform our Yumlings out there about that. We've actually brought somebody in. A fellow Babylon 5 podcaster, somebody who has gathered a whole crew of people to watch Babylon 5 with them and podcast about it. We are joined by Scott. How are you doing?
Well, now I want to know if I'm a Yumling or not. Do I get to have that designation?
Do you listen to the podcast?
I do listen. I love the banter between you two. It's so cute.
You get to be a Yumling. Congratulations. You can write it
Yay.
down if you like and put a little piece of paper that says Yumling and pin it to your shirt so everybody can see it.
I'm excited.
You're excited? Oh, well, like the famous Australian celebrity Big Kev would say, I'm excited. Please tell us a bit about yourself, your podcast, and what you guys do.
Well, I'm from the United States, so I have no idea who Big Kev is, but I will just live in my shame on that one. But I'm Scott. I'm with the Gray 17 podcast. We are a newer podcast, started a few months ago, and our shtick is we have a group of newbies as well as long-term fans who are watching Babylon 5. So we, much like you all, we do have a section where we talk spoilers and discuss the episodes in total. But before that, we have a section where our newbies give their impressions of an episode they just watched for the first time, not knowing what happens next, which is really exciting for me because somebody who watched this all the way back in '94 when it first came out with season 1, and that's where we're at right now with season 1. I don't get to experience it as a new person anymore. But watching it through these guys' eyes is really exciting. So we're having a good time.
Yeah, you have done that thing that I have often done, which is I drag people in to watch this show. And we sit down and they are skeptical at first. They go, I don't know about this. It's this 90s sci-fi show and all that. And then eventually over time, you slowly win them over. But you're using that in a podcast format. We're getting to hear it in real time in podcasting land. And that's very exciting. And it's very cool. And like you said, you are experienced with Babylon 5. So you were there in the early days. You were there for season 1. I mean, what is your general relationship and history with it? Like, did you just stumble across it? Were you aware of it? Where do you remember where you came in? Like, was it the first episode? Like, what's your backstory with B5?
I was there at the dawn of the third age, sir.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know exactly. I was 11 at the time, so my memory is a bit faded at this point. But if I did not start watching with The Gathering, I definitely started watching early in season 1. And the only reason why I know this is because I was watching a lot of PTEN at the time, because not only was there Babylon 5, but there was Time Tracks and Kung Fu. The legend continues.
Yes.
So I was watching all 3 of those shows at the same time. But so I'm definitely somebody who started with the first airing of at least the first part of season 1 and followed it all the way through and jumped on board with season 5 when it moved to TNT. I wasn't really involved with the internet community that was around the show back then because, again, only 11. I actually didn't get my first computer until I was 13. But I definitely was a viewer from afar watching the whole show.
Well, us dive into the episode of discussion today. Rachel, do you remember what we're talking about?
I do, but I would love to hear how JMS himself describes it in the DVD brochure synopsis.
Are you accusing him of... Well, we know he has his fingers in all the different pies. So you're right. He probably wrote the DVD descriptions. And what a lyricist he is here. It goes as such for Ship of Tears, episode 14. War can forge unexpected allegiances. Events surrounding the recovery of a transport vessel convince Psycor Cop Bester to assist B5 in its struggle with the shadows. Oh, it's a Bester episode. He is back, baby. This is one, of course, that I like a lot. I have seen this many a times, and each time I revisit it, there's always a new thing that I'm drawn to. When I first saw it, of course, the revelation about telepaths and how they are connected to the shadows, or like how the shadows are weak to telepaths, and how it ties back into the Narn culture and the backstories of that. All of that was completely awesome because that was set up in season 1, and I was very familiar with season 1. And so I was thrilled with that, but when I come back, there's always a new thing, like seeing this element of Bester and how he's a little bit more funny here, but also he no longer has to put on any semblance of a facade. He can just be an out-and-out asshole to them because they don't have that relationship anymore. They're no longer a part of Earth. He doesn't have to play...
Cards are on the table.
Cards are on the table, and he can just say, yeah, I'm into eugenics. Whatever. Whatever. I'm a bad guy, but I think I'm a good guy, so who cares? And
My telepaths.
I'm going to be King Bester. And I also really adore the scenes between Jakar and Delenn, which is something that really drew me in on this rewatch because, as we've noted down during our podcasting experience, if you want a good gauge on Babylon 5's quality improving, watch pretty much every scene between Jakar and Delenn throughout the whole entire show to see how the writing and the acting and those characters mature and get better over time, because this scene here, these two characters talking to each other, is completely different to how they were in The Gathering, where there was a lot less subtlety and more shrieking to it. Rachel, Ship of Tears, what has been your relationship with it?
Mixed, I would say. Like, it's a Bester episode, so it's great. It's great. But I remember being like, What's it doing here?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
After the King Arthur episode, you're really wondering what this one's doing here. I think it's
Yeah.
more, please, thank you.
There is that aspect of that, but it's just like, okay, this feels like a detour, a necessary detour, but it feels like a bit of a side quest. And it's much a more enjoyable side quest than last week's episode. But it took me a couple of watches to warm up to it.
Okay, interesting. Scott, we asked you to come on for this one. We were looking at our season 3 list. There's a lot of guests who are like, I want this episode, I want this episode. And this one was one of the free ones, and I was just picked it at random and went, oh, let's have Scott on for this. What did you think about, what's your journey with this episode, and what did you think about coming on for this one?
I humbly have to disagree. I love Ship of Tears. Not so much for the A-plot. I mean, it's kind of a generic sci-fi plot of lady takes over a computer by becoming the computer and all that. But we move so many pieces on the puzzle, on the game board or whatever you want to call it for this episode.
Yeah.
We finally get Jakar down in the council chambers or whatever you want to call it. We finally start learning more about what make the shadows tick. And it's weird for me too. I got to tell you, you guys are watching this through as a rewatch. I'm not. I'm still on season 1 because I decided not to binge ahead from my newbies. So I just jumped from By Any Means Necessary to Ship of Tears. So jumping from season 1 to season 3, it definitely is an interesting watch at this point because I probably haven't seen season 3 all the way through since, I don't know, 2018, 2019. So it was an interesting experience. But no, I think this is an episode that I'm also a big Jakar fan, and I'm actually realizing as I watch season 1 that I think Jakar is my favorite character. I always thought it was Londo, but I think it's Jakar, and getting him to this place is very important for his character.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And I think that's why I like it more and more each time we watch it, because I appreciate this point in Jakar's journey as well as how it's this small part of a giant puzzle of the world of B5.
I wholeheartedly agree. And one of the things that always floors me every time I think about how JMS has an answer to things. He's that creator where you can tweet at him and he'll have an answer. Even if it's a joke answer, he'll have an answer. But he does that, but in the show. That's the most important thing. Like, he gives you the answers in the show to questions you didn't even think about. Like, when it comes to the Delenn Jakar stuff, I always get taken aback by, oh yeah, that's why they're not inviting him into the clubhouse, because they were silent about the shadows. She could have helped. She could have done something, but she stayed silent, and his people fell, and she knew, and now she has to come to terms with that. And this is something that in another series, they could easily have skipped this step over, and the audience could have been none the wiser, or they could have been that vocal minority of the audience who would write on the Reddit 30 years later. It's like, hey guys, did you ever notice that Delenn actually did know this, blah, blah, blah. But JMS does the legwork and gives us this, in which when it's raised to you as an audience, you lean forward in your chair and go, oh, that is good.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That is not only interesting, but it's compelling. And that's what I would use to describe the Delenn Jakar plot in this episode. It's not the most heavy thing in there. It's not not taking up a lot of time. It's just a couple of scenes, but it's really compelling. The performances are compelling. The emotions that are being put forth are compelling, as well as just the understanding between these two characters has grown so much, and we as the audience have been there for that. You said, Scott, you're in season 1, so it's kind of a bit of a whiplash for you to come to season 3 where these two characters have come to such a point.
I'd already discovered much of what you just told me about the Centauri, but that you knew and said nothing. Had I learned this as my world was being bombed by the Centauri, I would have killed you instantly. You understand that, do you not?
Yes, I do.
It's for me. It's great to watch these two actors in their characters fully at this point, and that's the big difference I'm seeing jumping from one season to another. Mira Furlong and Andreas Katsoulis are two of the most gifted actors on this show, and a show that has quite a few gifted actors. And seeing Dylan's tears as she is having to tell Jakar what she did to him, and watching Jakar, Andreas Katsoulis, really emoting through all that makeup about the pain, but the relief that he is feeling. Because he says to her as well, too, I had put all this together already, except for the fact that you kept it from me. But even when he realizes that and realizes that he's been kept in the dark and many and many of his people had died because of it, he's also feeling relief. And you can see that because now all doors are open and now he will be a part of this fight. And it's just great to see these two A-class actors getting just a scene to themselves to play off each other, and they do it so well.
They make it look effortless as performers. It's just two people sitting in a room in most of it, and that is as exciting, if not more so, than all of the shooty stuff that we get in the A plot. And I think that says a lot about how much we've invested in these characters. Rachel, the Jakar stuff slowly presents itself in the episode where he's pestering again.
Yes.
He's pecking at the characters, being like, I
Get
know.
some great lines.
He gets some great lines. He gets to be a little catty. And you, the audience, you are thinking to yourself, well, why are they letting him in? They said they would.
Come on. I thought this would have just happened off screen several episodes ago. Why are they holding back? And then as soon as you find out why, you're like, oh yeah. Yeah, that would make them a bit concerned.
The difficult thing.
'Cause they could have just kept on lying to him.
Or just the writer themselves could have just foregone this part of it and just
Yeah.
went forward, maybe
But
even not even realize that this would have existed. We see that so much in Star Trek Discovery, where they just blast through things and you go, guys, what about the consequences of this, and the characters would have reacted like this, and this, and they just shrug their shoulders and go, that was two seasons
whatever.
ago. We had different showrunners then, who cares?
This is a very important trial for Jakar, because it's a real test of the knowledge that Kosh gave him as Jaquan.
Yes, as a Jaquan. Yeah, that's true. That's true, because, and it's also a test for Delenn as a character. Is she actually this person she thinks that she's transformed into, this bridge, this person that is able to give understanding and be empathetic and to own up to their mistakes? Because when she was going to transform in the end of season 1, a part of that was, I will tell you, Sinclair, the truth. And then that didn't happen. And here it is again. It's like, I will have to tell a character a very harsh truth about something that I did to them. And it's a test on her character as well as Jakar. But you were saying it's delving into the message that Kosh has implanted within him.
Yeah, like, if Kosh hadn't have said that to Jakar, we never would have gotten to this point where Delenn was doing this reveal. I just don't think that that's the way that things would have happened.
Wouldn't have played out the same, this conversation.
But yeah, but even getting to this point, because it's because of that seed that Kosh planted that really turned Jakar's journey inward when he was incarcerated. and impacted his decisions since he's been out.
Yeah.
He probably still would have helped them out with security, but for much more selfish reasons.
I don't even know about that for certain, but they come at this with a really great moment at the end when Jakar's talking through his process and how he's going through this information. I would have killed you instantly if you told me this when the bombings were happening. I would have killed you. You know that.
Yep.
And
how, I own up to that.
Yes, and how he then proceeds to talk about this divine revelation he's had, but now he's learning something new about it, which is it's not just about where we're going with this, it's
about
where we've been. And I think that is a rather interesting new wrinkle upon it, because it deepens the understanding Jakar has of this profound message that Kosh has put in there for him. This is not even Kosh having to push this further. This is a piece that Kosh has put in there, and we're just seeing it play out in more than one way, more than just pushing Jakar in the forward direction, but making him reflect back.
Yeah, and to sort of link it all back to the Vorlons, it's very much showing us who these characters are now. Who are you?
Yes, and even to tie it to the A plot, because you could look at this and think, how does it tie into the A plot other than the ending where the Book of Jaquan is a thing that gives us the information that furthers the stakes of what was happening in the A plot. You look at this and you go, okay, the A plot is dealing with tools, these components, these things that the shadows are using to aid themselves in the war. And you look at Jakar, and we've talked about this in Dust to Dust, this is a Vorlon thing where they manipulate you, they alter you, they adjust you, they give you this new understanding for their own purposes. And Jakar is a part of that as well. Like, this is something that has pushed Jakar into a direction that he would not have gone before, and it's done in a very omniscient Vorlon style way about it.
They know best. They know best.
They know best. They're our fathers. They're our mothers. They're our guardian angels. They're our actual angels. In Season 1, the things that made Jakar happy were inherently selfish things. The getting one up on Londo, or he's eating his food and then he gets pissed off when somebody comes in, or stuff of that nature.
Trying to bed female humans.
Yeah, and you really had to push him. Sinclair really had to push him to think outside of himself, to think about the crossroads we're at, and to not give into the cycle of violence. And that was like a real push and pull. Here we end his journey, or part of it, with him being able to go and join the club. And he's shown the room that they're now in, this new set, or, newly designed set. And his reaction to it is this contented joy. It's not this ecstatic happiness. It's almost this breathless wonder and happiness that finally I've been allowed in here. But not just that, but finally I'm allowed to contribute. And think about how drastically different that set of happiness and priority is from Season 1 Jakar, or even Season 2 Jakar. In this, he is contented that he's finally able to contribute to good rather than to the good of his own people and to the good of himself. That's why you get the classic, and this is where it teeters for me. Like, it works because the acting's so great and the scene's so great. I always teeter when a writer makes their character say out loud to another character, "My gosh, you've changed since you've been here." I'm like, JMS, you already made Dylan say this to Jakar in Point of No Return or Seven Dreams, one of them. You already made her say that. You're pushing me, JMS, but it works here because I agree with you. I remember how selfish he was. I remember how driven he was by his own anger, and now that is fading away. It's really great to see.
You have come a long way, Jakar. Further than I could have guessed. Sheridan's promise binds me as well as it does him. We will take you into the council, Jakar.
Scott, Bester, what's your overall opinions of this guy, this man, this psychop piece of shit?
He is one of my favorite villains in fiction in general, not just sci-fi, not just TV. I love Bester, and really because I love Walter Koenig's performance of Bester. When I look at Walter Koenig, I don't think Chekhov, I think Bester, because he plays him so well. This is somebody, and we see it in this episode, and you guys have already talked about it. He has a plan, and his plan is what's best, in his opinion, for his telepaths. So he is not the villain of his story, and that's the best villains, is when they're not the villain of their own story. And I love seeing, as you pointed out, that he's able to bring down all the curtains now and just say, hey, this is who I am. I have a plan for my telepaths. All of you mundanes are kind of worthless to me. We can breed you pretty fast, so we can always have more. But right now, at this very moment, I need you to get past this shadow thing, and then we'll deal with whatever comes next. And I really love the ability of this character to make me want to just strangle him, but also love him at the same time.
Oh yeah, Walter Koenig's performance does so much wonder here. I was really struck by when he revealed more of himself, when he was talking to Ivanova, and we'll talk about that sequence in a bit, but I was really struck upon thinking about the series. Within the series, I don't care about unfinished scripts for Crusade or books. Within the series, we think of Bester as like this really smart, chess-playing mastermind character. And we see here, we get another layer to him where he's this bigoted guy, where he thinks of the mundanes as lesser than, he wants telepaths to be the ultimate race. And it made me sit back and think about the character overall.
The ultimate race.
Yes. But, yes. But it made me think back about where we go with him in the show, where you think about him being this mega villain that they're going to deal with. But at the end of it all, he's just a shitty racist cop who thinks higher of himself. That's what he is. That's what he is. But Walter Koenig plays it with such gusto that you think of him as even higher than that. But really, he's just a guy with a gun in a uniform who thinks that he's going to lead his people to some newfound place. And by the end of the show, he's just still the shitty cop that comes onto Babylon 5 and has to get the runaways. I think that's a really interesting dynamic to play with this character, because it reminds you that even though he's this powerful guy that our crew has to worry about every time he comes onto the station, it also counters it by just being like, he's still just a guy. Like, he thinks like he's almost godlike and that the telepaths are even beyond this, but really not so much. Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, he thinks that he has more power than he does, because he believes so much that he is above everybody else. He's above mundanes, but he's also above other telepaths.
Yeah, he thinks that he's right as well. Like we see with the Vorlons and the Shadows, they think they're right, so everybody has to fall in line with whatever their agenda is. And he's the same with the telepaths. Like, I'm right, and they'll figure it out. Carolyn will eventually turn around. She's stubborn, but she'll eventually turn around and agree with me, right, guys? How do you feel, though, Rachel, about, like, how the show... It always comes across to me like it gets away with the fact that you think Bester's like a much bigger, grand supervillain than he kind of is in the end. Like, in the end, he is just the shitty psychop Bester who is a racist.
Yeah, he's just one dude. And he does have power, but he's not in control.
No, not as much as he like to think he is.
No.
And we see that challenge throughout this episode too, where you have people like Carolyn the Blip, where it's like he's in love with this woman, but she's a blip and she still doesn't, like, she still didn't bow down to what he wanted, and yet he can't control that. You can imagine how can he control the whole telepath race into a newfound era.
And just the fact that he focuses in and is pretty consistent with saying, I loved her. No mention of reciprocal feelings.
Oh, you can just
Well,
assume.
to be honest though, I don't think with Bester that matters.
No,
Other
it
people's
doesn't.
feelings doesn't matter.
And, obviously looking at it through the lens that we have now, it's like, well, there's no way that she could consent, really.
No.
Like, he's in too much of a position of power over her for her to kind of give consent in a way that we would see as valid.
Well, that's psycho love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every time we've seen it in the show. Jason Ironheart was Talia's mentor, and that's a screwed up relationship. The forced genetic pairing marriages, that's a whole thing. And then here we have another fucked up weird relationship when it comes to psycho people. It's like, I'm your arresting officer guy and you're my prisoner. And
I'm giving you extra things.
yeah, some more food in a bigger room. You love me now. It's like,
yeah, you're pregnant with my baby. That means that you love me, right?
Brother.
And we'll see it again too. I'm blanking on the name of the episode, but when we get to see the inner workings of Psycor, Bester just gets to use people, women, but also people in general, and they're all his plaything.
Yeah. We have a fun time when we meet Bester, where it is disguised or hidden in among the scene where we get, hey guys, Babylon 5 now has new spaceships. We have new fighting vessels. We got them from those previous episodes. Remember those previous episodes? They left some ships behind.
Yeah, they told us this.
Yeah, but now we're showing them off in this fun sequence where we've got the new CGI and all these new assets and a new little set for the actors to sit in. And oh my god, they get to sit down in the ships, and you get these lights.
There's 2 of them.
Yeah, and there's 2 of them, and the lights beam onto Sheridan's face. I really adore how you have Sheridan. He's just so happy-go-lucky. He's like, hey, I'm a fly boy. I'm getting to fly, and we're testing out all this stuff. What, you can go into the atmosphere? That's awesome. And of course, it has to be you have to have a plot happen. So, distress signal, and it's our boy Bester. It's him. He's there, floating in space, and I do adore how Sheridan knows it's Bester just from the voice, and Bester's amused by that. He's just like, oh, you recognize me by the voice. Oh, how nice of you. I'm so happy about that. When you were watching Babylon 5 through back in the day, Scott, I mean, was Bester just one of those characters where you would sit up in your seat when you saw that he would be in an episode?
Absolutely, 100%. And I don't know if it's I grew up on the original series. My dad had all the episodes on Betamax and then VHS, so I don't know if it was just because I already had ingratiated myself to Walter Koenig. But absolutely, every time Bester would show up, it's already a better episode, whether it's going to be or not, just because of that.
Yeah, and he's one that, until now, he only appears once a season. He's here twice this season? That's crazy. It must be a big deal if he's coming back. We already had him once, and he's back again, and there's always a new scheme with him. They say as much. They go through the rigmarole of, okay, Bester's here. No, we can't kill him, Ivanova. I know we should try to kill him, but if we can't, and they have to go through why they can't do previous things that they've done to stop Bester.
Always a different dynamic.
Yeah, they keep him fresh like that. Every time Bester comes on, there's a different threat to it. There's a different dynamic, as you say. There's a different plot happening, and he treats them differently. Every time we've seen him, he treats the crew differently, but in ways that it makes sense. His relationship with them has evolved over time. When he first came on, he wouldn't even speak out loud to them. He would just speak in their brain and just be offended that they wanted him to speak out loud. And now he's cracking jokes left and right. He's just cracking jokes. He's calm and casual with them, and he hates them. He hates them as much as they hate him. We get what is the icon? One of the most iconic Bester moments, especially when it comes to him being funny, where they bring him in, they tow him in, and they bring his ship in, and he walks out, and he's met by an armed guard, group of armed guards, and he just remarks upon them just being like, if this keeps happening, I'm going to start thinking that people around here don't like me very much. And he's just so chuffed with himself. And you said you grew up with the 60s, the original Star Trek show. I mean, Walter Koenig was the comedic relief in that series.
That's true.
And
That's true.
Here in Babylon 5, he doesn't get to be that. But here, as we go along, you can see they're starting to bring in that comedic side of Walter Koenig's acting ability. How do you feel about that, Scott? Because you say you think of him as Bester, not Chekhov, but as the show goes along, they're starting to embrace that more well-known comedic side of this actor.
I think the cynicism and the sarcasm was always a part of Bester. Maybe not so much his first appearance, but as you continue to get to know the character more, you get to see that. Obviously, he definitely starts chewing more scenery as we get farther along in a good way. Another one scene right before the scene you just talked about that I love, and again, it's just a reaction, is when Bester is in his Star Fury and he cannot read Sheridan. You can see on his face he's not entirely sure what's going to happen next. He very well could just get blown out of the sky, and he realizes that for a few seconds. He's like, "Oh, you're thinking about it. Okay, this may not go well for me." And it's even little points like that are humorous to me in Koenig's performance. But I tend to be somebody who enjoys dark, sarcastic, dry humor. So Bester in this mode is very much someone I love in terms of just the comedic performance.
He is an actor, we're so used to the silly Russian accent that you forget that Walter Koenig as a guy is very well spoken. He's very articulate, especially when he's playing Bester. And that level of articulation to everything he says makes even the comedic stuff a little unsettling. A little bit of an edge to it because he's so calm. He's so confident in his element. And he even does a little impression of Sheridan where he come on, you're curious. Don't you want to know why I'm here? Or, or you're just going to blow me out of the sky. And the way he does it that always cracks me up because it's like, oh, look, Bester is loosening up as a guy. Like, he's feeling free to just mimic and mock them in a weird way. And he's playing his card. Like, he's playing a game. You know he's always playing a game when he comes onto Babylon 5. There's always something going on with him. And he comes onto the station and they can't give him the sleepers, Rachel. We can't do Dust to Dust again. That was a fun plot. We can't do it again, though.
No. It's evolved.
It's evolved. We need his mind powers. And what do you think about Sheridan's decision here, Rachel, where he tells everyone but Ivanova to leave, he needs Ivanova to stay, and he proposes a certain thing that Ivanova can offer up to help alleviate the tensions. Do you want to walk us through this and your overall thoughts on it?
Well, he sends Ivanova in as a lamb for potential sacrifice. And each time I watch this, I'm waiting for Ivanova to go, maybe I should just lie. Just lie and say that he did try and scan me and just get rid of this fucker.
She does hate him.
She does hate him, and she does get to slap him, which is
very satisfying.
So satisfying. So satisfying. But Ivanova, as a latent telepath, can sense when her mind is being swept.
Yeah, when it's being scanned and touched and all that, yeah.
So he sends her in first to test if Bester is going to be true to his word and not scan them. Because, he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
As they point out, all their cards are pretty much on the table.
But he doesn't know that.
No. No. So Ivanova goes in to have the meeting with him instead of Sheridan. And they discuss the intelligence that Bester is bringing.
I do think that it's a really dicey move to have Sheridan do this to Ivanova, but the acting and the writing really work well here to make it understandable and relatable and not at all a negative thing to do, because he is looking at her and saying, you have a special ability that can help us right now, and it would make you very uncomfortable to do this, but we need you to do this. And there's a fine line where you can make that work and make that not work. We discussed in one of our episodes on Star Trek Discovery where Michael Burnham just looks at Book and is like, do that empathy thing. And it's like so derogatory. It's like, oh, that's why he exists in the show, is because he has empathy powers. And it's like, he's not a person, he's just a guy with powers. Here, they still remind you that, yes, Ivanova has these powers that will help us in this plot right now. But Sheridan is her friend as well as her commanding officer. And he respects her as a person still, but he needs her to do this.
He asks her to do it as well.
That's what makes him a great commanding officer. That's what makes him a great friend. And I just really wanted to underline that because I was thinking about that a lot, because we talked about on Star Trek Discovery a lot, like why moments like this don't work in a show like that, say. And it's because there's that lack of humanity to it. Here, there's a humanity to it. Like, we look at it and go, oh, yes, we're moving the plot along, and now we're solving this problem that would happen in the plot, but it's still about that human connection.
The underlying work has been done in B5.
Yes.
That props this moment up.
You're not going to do this to me, are you?
If he's going to risk scanning someone, my guess is he'll grab the first person that walks in the door, in case he doesn't get another chance.
John, I can't block a psychop.
No, but you told me that you can sense instantly if someone is scanning you. If I send you in first to talk to him, you'll know if he tries anything. If he doesn't try it, we'll know we can trust him. A little.
But if he does?
Then we'll keep him in the brig.
For how long?
Until we run out of food or he dies of old age, whichever comes first.
But we've already talked about one scene in this episode where we have two characters in a box. Now we've got two other characters in the box. And this is the kind of stuff that I just go for. You mentioned, Ryan, the whole it doesn't have any pew-pew. I don't need pew-pew. My favorite times are when you stick a couple characters in a room for a long period of time and they have to bounce off of each other. And so I'm all for this. In terms of the interactions we have here, again, we're starting to, and I say starting because reminder, I just jumped from season 1 to season 3, so I haven't binged in probably about 4 or 5 years now. But we're starting to see more of Ivanova dealing with the past that she has with Psychor, with her parents, with her mother, with the dealing with the latency of her telepathy and having to always be on guard, and then being stuck in a room because her friend asked her to, with this guy who could be able to determine who she is. And if and when we ever get through this Earth shadow thing, then she's going to have to deal with that too, and that puts her on edge. And I love the interactions we have here, and the fact that Claudia Christian plays this so well, where she's hesitant to get close to him. She very much works slowly towards the conversation, but then at the end of the, because of who she is, she smacks the hell out of him. I love it.
Yeah, to even go further on how great her acting is in this scene, you get that joy as a viewer that she smacks him. You go, yeah, we've been waiting for this. You know, he's been hit before. Sinclair punched him out in the first episode, but the tension between Ivanova and Besta has always been brewing because of her history, because of these things that we're discussing. But I really love how she reacts to herself slapping him, where it's not as if she's happy that she just did that. There's that level of, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. And
like,
I
he
can't
poked me and I bit.
And I bit. That's it.
It's the comment about her mum.
Yeah, it's a comment about her mum and how she has her eyes, and that Besta played her. Besta played her. He pushed the buttons because she's been very good at not letting Besta push her buttons in ways that he has tried to do it to Garibaldi, Sinclair, even Talia. And we had in Dust to Dust where she stopped Garibaldi from freaking out because it's like he wants this from you. And he played her here, and she fell into it. But even though it is a satisfactory thing for us, you can tell it's not for her. Like, I wish that I want to hurt him, but I just wish that I didn't give in to this side of myself right now. But it exists because
There's also...
what was that, sorry?
No, go ahead, please.
Oh yes, it exists. It's there. It's a part of me, and he knows that, and he brought it out of me, and I'm forever pissed off about it. But at the same time, you gotta slap him.
Well, there's also a concern there too. We've learned over the years that physical contact makes it very much harder to keep barriers in place. So, and this was a conversation that folks had on the Usenets back in the 90s, is when she touched him, would he even be able to not scan, even though he had promised not to scan? And JMS's response to that was, well, it was so sudden that it put him in shock anyway, so he wouldn't have done it. But I can see that Ivanova may be scared that she may have let something slip mentally because of that contact as well, too.
Yeah, and his reaction to it of, I'll let you do it this one time. Just his face says that, like he's wiping off the blood. He's amused. But there's this level on his expression and his body language of, I'll let you get away with it this one time.
You get one free shot.
You get a free shot here.
Next time I'll dissect you like your girlfriend.
Yeah. And we go further into just the show always want to make sure that, hey, Best is a fun character. He's fun. It's great to have him around. But hey, guys, he's all about being genetically superior, and he's an arrogant son of a bitch that even though he's smart, a lot of the times his weakness is that arrogance of his, where he's blind to certain things that are right in front of him, such as the dramatic irony of Ivanova is a telepath, and he's talking to her like, you're just jealous of me and my abilities to have the powers to read minds, and you mundanes will forever be wanting to be like us, and we are far superior. And it's like, yeah, Besta, whoopsie, you're talking to another telepath there. Oh, that's right, you don't know. Sorry, buddy. And it just makes this ominous thing that he's saying, this very scary, very gross stuff that he's saying, it also trivializes it in a little way as well, because like he thinks he knows everything. What we know in the scene, he really doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
You know the real reason you don't like me, Commander? It's the jealousy of evolution. Normals like you are obsolete. The future belongs to telepaths. And I intend to make sure that future happens, one way or the other.
So when the dust settles and telepaths are running everything, you'll be on top of the new order.
That's pretty much like this plot is, he thinks he knows how everything's playing out because he's told certain truths and he's withheld others when it comes to the mission, which is he's found out through, well, his ability as a telepath. Guys, I'm a telepath. Figure it out. That the shadows are these things that exist and that they've infiltrated Earth and the Psi Core, and that they're taking these weapon components and they're being shipped off, and we need to stop them. We need to grab these before they're taken. He knows that they're telepaths that are frozen. Our characters don't know that, but he knows that. The thing that he doesn't know is there's a telepath in this group that he is aware of and is in love with. I have to put quotations around that love. He thinks he's in love, if he even understands what that emotion is, that feeling is. We have a spooky shadow plot where the shadows are in it, but they're kind of not in it. This is that part of the show. I mean, the episode ends with the shadows are no longer hiding. They're on the attack. But we have a lot of... They're on the move. But we have had a lot of these stories in B5 where they're shadow adjacent, where the shadows may physically even turn up. We see shadow vessels and ship, but it's really about stuff that they're slowly doing and their servants are doing on their behalf. And I understand why, Rachel, for you looked at this as a little bit of a detour or an oddity, because in a way I can understand that at this point in the show, you may grow tired of seeing the shadows play this slow, quiet game. And so at the end, when they reveal, actually, they're no longer going to be slow and quiet, they're going to be out and about and being loud and aggressive, it is a balancing act, because for 3 seasons now we've just had the shadows quietly doing things and being aids to other people, having people aid them rather than them doing things for themselves out in the open. How do you feel about that, Rachel, when it comes to this episode? Do you think that was something that's been lingering for you? Because that's what this is. This is Bester has to help them stop the shadows doing a plot quietly in the background.
Yeah. And that the threat that the like B5 people pose has been elevated to the shadows, because they had a telepath on board, and that scares them shitless.
Yeah. Oh, can we talk about when they do agree to take Bester with them and do this mission, that he sits in his chair? That Bester sits in his chair?
Oh, that's so cute.
I mean, is that the closest JMS really gets up close to making a Star Trek joke at Walter Koenig in this? Because that's like one of those where it's like he never got to sit in the captain's chair. Bester never really got. I mean, Chekhov never really got to sit in the captain's chair. Like now Walter Koenig gets to sit in the captain's chair. Now it's like, get the fuck out of my chair.
Yeah,
you son of a bitch.
Like, no. This isn't yours. This isn't yours.
I wonder how that always plays for people who aren't into sci-fi. Like, it's still amusing.
Yeah, because it's still Bester making a ploy for.
He thinks he's that important.
Yeah, and he doesn't care.
But I always find amusement that there's a little bit of a, oh my god, Walter Koenig gets to sit in the captain's chair, and then the actual captain of the show walks over and tells him to get the hell out of his chair, like, you're an invader of this, you don't earn it. That's just one of those little moments where JMS doesn't need to put that in there. That doesn't contribute to the story, but it's a moment that makes for just a nice humorous thing in amongst all of the ominous hyperspace shenanigans that we're having with the shadows.
The characters are just being themselves.
Yeah. We get a lot of lore in this episode, a lot of additions to the lore. So the shadows are there, they're out and about, they're shooting some of their little ships, they're trying to get this transport ship. And then we get a big shadow ship just crawl up on them, just sneak up on them. But Best is there, and he's given them the squinty telepath eyes. You know, the telepath eyes that these actors have to have, where it's like, I'm sensing things with my brain. And it scares the shadow ship away. Scott, what do you think about this filling in of the lore, where we're now bringing the telepaths into the shadow stuff more directly, in terms of we are actually having the Psy-Corps be at play here. We're having telepaths being transported to shadows, but now we're revealing that the shadows have a weird relationship with the telepaths themselves.
You got to have a way to win, right? You got to have an Achilles heel. And even Sheridan, we have a way to beat them now. We have a way.
We have a
without
weapon.
Yes. Without this, how are you going to beat these guys? They've been around for millions of years. You are, as Jakar pointed out in season 1, ants. So how are you going to do it? Well, we find out that the shadows are scared to death of telepaths. We also know that the Vorlons made the telepaths for that very reason. So this is, again, another nice turning point that this episode brings in the idea that the shadows are beatable. They are not this omnipotent god race, and we find out later they're more children than anything else, but they're not this omnipotent god race that cannot be defeated. And I also like that the telepaths in this entire universe have always been a point of the narrative, but have not really taken center stage. And this allows that part of the universe to be center stage in the narrative more so than it has before. Because we'll also see it's not just the Psy-Corps and the human telepaths. We're now going to start seeing Mbryo telepaths on all white stars just to make sure that the shadows can't screw with them. And so it's a good turning point.
I remember being overjoyed with this revelation as well, but also I was skeptical. But we get answers, as we said, the Vorlons are an answer to this, of, Oh, so the telepath, like from a creator's standpoint, you put telepaths in the show, and now we have to have an answer for why telepaths are in the show. That they are the key to help defeat the ancient enemy. Oh, that seems a little bit like too cutesy. But then JMS is actually like, no, you're right. It is a little too cutesy. I'm going to make sure that there's an actual in-universe dedicated reason for that, and that it's actually pretty fucked up that that's the case. It's not just me as a writer going, oh, wouldn't it be great if an element that, like, if I have something in the show, like, say, telepaths, they can be the Achilles heel for the bad guys. No, let's actually explore the idea of what would create that. Oh, another race, and then all of the ramifications and the horrifying consequences of said action. And that is really cool because, yeah, you have Bester here. He's on the White Star ship. He's a strong telepath. We learn that the telepaths can sense things even further and even stronger in hyperspace for some reason. And that
amplifies.
They keep that to themselves because why wouldn't they? They don't want to be on the front lines.
No, we're not expendable.
You guys are expendable. You guys breed like rabbits. It's really hard to get people like us. And so, again, that level of superiority, that level of we're more important than you. And when you look at it, they find these people, these telepaths that are in the cryo thing, and we learn that they're weapons components, right? The Shadow's going to use them to plug into their ships so that they can have telepaths that are in their ships so that they can most likely block other telepaths that are trying to stop them and or use them for other means. But there's also a dramatic irony that you think about when you know why the telepaths exist in the first place, that they are weapons. That's what they were designed to be,
Mm-hmm.
that these generations of people, these people who are, for Earth at least, are lost people. Now they've been forced into this Psychor box and they're trying to find meaning to what they are. Hence Bester has his vision for the telepaths. He thinks there must be something here. Oh, it's genetic evolution. We're superior. When really, you're just a gun. That's what you are. And we see in season 5, Lita particularly struggle with this notion as well, which I think is, again, it's really interesting, and Ship of Tears gives us a lot of this stuff here. They give us a lot of information, and they give us it as answers to things, but also they're setting up further things for down the road of just, here we go, off we go to the races.
That's it, isn't it? They were going to plug those people into their ships.
Weapons components.
My God. That's how she was able to interface with all the equipment in MedLab. She was going to merge with the station.
But why telepaths? Delenn never said that was a requirement.
This episode has an air of horror and spookiness to it. I was really noting down that there's a lot of use of no music. There's plenty of music, but there's many scenes where they just drop the music and just let the sound of the scene play out, especially when we go later when Franklin has one of the cryotubes in the med bay, and he's just talking to himself and he's grabbing his instruments, and there's just no music. It's just this
he's
eerie.
Just doing his logs, and it's also sort of neat trick from JMS to have the alien do that, because it's like very clearly going, and this is not important. This is not what we're focusing on. This is not the question that we're going to answer
right now. This is something for later. Even Franklin says, I'll examine his body. You never know when one of these things may turn up again in the future.
Just going to keep it on freeze.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep this in the
archive
records.
It.
I'll
he
archive
says archive
it. And then, we get to the craft, and they just have a buttload of frozen telepaths, and Scott, we know what happens with a lot of these people. You remember, of course, what Sheridan has some ideas of what to do with these frozen telepaths in the future.
In war, ethics goes out the window, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it just further highlights Bester's point of you don't think of us as people. Like, that's a part of why he doesn't tell them, like, you guys wouldn't have cared. if you knew they were telepaths. And in the end, we do see that a lot of our main characters really do have really negative, harboring feelings about telepaths. Some of them, like Garibaldi, says it straight up in the pilot. He's like, I don't trust them.
Nope.
I don't like them. It's like, oh,
Well,
buddy.
Does anyone really need to know what goes on Garibaldi's head? So, I mean, I can get where Garibaldi doesn't trust telepaths.
He's a nice guy.
You want to talk about cutesy, though. The one thing with this ship that always kind of interests me in terms of the writing of it, and I get you got to get the plot moving along, but we've got over 100 telepaths in these frozen sleeper tubes, and we just happen to open up the one that has a sexual relationship with Bester. That one.
Just the one.
Just happened to.
Just that one. I always get annoyed that they do a double reveal. So they show us, the audience, that it's a ship full of frozen people. And we go, oh, okay. And then an ad break. And then it comes back and Ivanova wheels one out, throws down the tarp on it, and it's like another reveal. And it's like, oh, no,
dun, dun, dun.
telepaths. Like, you just told us this. I know that you're now telling the characters, but it's still played like it's a reveal. It's like, I saw it already. I saw it. I don't know why we're doing this. I always wish that they didn't show us that one before the ad break. I think you could have left it and then showed us this, or have this right before the ad break. Like, have this where where Ivanova shows it and you go, oh, and then have the ad break. It's just one of those things where it's like,
one or the other.
We're doubling up here. We're doubling up, and I never understand why. I just go, I get it. We have to get to 45 minutes or whatever it is. I understand that, JMS. Please. But you're also right. It is a little convenient that the one out of the 100 that we open up is the one that Bester has a connection with and already knows. And it makes it even a little bit more difficult because he doesn't realize that she's there. I mean, I think it would be more understandable if he did know she was in there and that was another drive, but this is like a surprise to him. And it makes it, a little too cutesy, a little too, okay, we gotta push Bester in the end to team up with our heroes to fight the bigger bad guy. And what motivation do we give him? He has a girlfriend. He has a lover.
He has a hard-on.
He has a baby in the works. And I think, I don't know, I mean, Rachel, since we're talking about this, what do you think about this twist in the story when it comes to Bester? Because for the most part, Bester's just this guy. He just comes on the station and he's a bad guy. He's like, I am Mr. Bad Guy. And there's no way that they are ever reasonably going to team up with him. You have to come up with a reason why they would.
Yeah.
And why he would team up with them.
Yeah. It works. That's what I have to say about it. It's functional in terms of what it does to, get Bester on their side. It does feel a teensy bit contrived, and then I kind of forget about it until they bring it up again.
Well, it's because we never see Carolyn again. We just hear about her. We see her frozen too, but we don't ever see that character again, really. I always have struggled with it too, because I always find when Walter Koenig is sitting down explaining the backstory, it is too exposition heavy. There's been ways that this show, even in this episode, has dispensed exposition and dispensed this stuff that we need to know in a way that goes down a little bit smoother. Here it is it's just dolloped onto my lap a little bit. And I do have a whiplash of the idea of Bester being motivated by some form of love. It's just not something that I would have thought to put in. But like you said, it's serviceable, it works, but it is one of those where I squint a little and go, and this isn't my favorite part of the Bester character, to say the least. Scott, how do you feel about all of that?
I can agree with you on that. I think what we're dealing with here is, I don't know. It's one of those where we deal with a character who has been built up to a point where he is such the villain in terms of all of this, that there's always going to be some areas that just kind of rub you the wrong way in terms of the motivation of the character. So I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah, and we already went over it a bit. I do appreciate that the show doesn't have to say it out loud, that you, the audience, are given the trust to know that the love that he has isn't real love. It isn't consensual love. It isn't healthy love. It isn't he's not now suddenly a sympathetic character. He's still like, even this motivation that he has within him is still fucking twisted and bizarre and sick.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, I like that a lot. And I'm curious to see how we go in our further watchings to see this side of the character be played with more, because we know that they do play with it a little bit more. But
He's still a villain.
Oh yeah. He's joined them now, but it doesn't matter. We'll have to fight him later. And we go towards the end where, Bester, he does his whole like, oh, my poor lover, she's now turned into a computer lady. I look, I struggle too. Is her wrapped up in the cables, trying to become Babylon 5, is that like good or silly? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. Her wrapped up in all the cables, shooting 90s lightning effects at Walter Koenig is a little
I know
too
where you're
silly.
going here.
What's that?
I know you're going here. It's straight out of Superman 3.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. Same plot.
Yeah, it's silly.
I mean, I understand why it's here.
Yeah, it's pretty quick as well in the episode. Like, you mainly get that one scene where she's in the net of wires.
Mm-hmm. If this was season 1, it would have been the whole episode, and it would have been called Infection, where a random person slowly transforms and tries to take over the station or destroy the station.
We didn't do that again.
And they shoot a lightning beam. All she needed to scream was "Protect!" and we would have been there. Yeah, Rachel, it is such a small part of it. Is that a negative? That this part of the plot is just like basically regulated to 1 or 2 scenes of the woman comes out, she tries to merge with the station, and she's shooting at them?
No, like, it makes sense in the grand scheme of the episode. It could have been more, but I'm glad that this is what it's relegated to.
Yeah. As Scott said it's Superman 3. In Superman 3, it's also like a random one-moment thing in a larger story, and it really throws you for a loop. You're like, that could have been a whole fucking episode or movie.
To be fair, the entirety of Superman 3 is one random fuck up, so, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Scott, come on. We can't get upset with Superman 3. It had, is that the one where Superman fights an evil version of himself? Is that the one?
You mean the one good scene from the entire movie? Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, Superman 3 is Richard Pryor meets Superman. That's Superman 3.
That's Superman 3. Yeah. What a great film. Guys, I give Superman 3 a yum yum on my rating system because it's such a fun...
I'm one of the... You guys are too young for this, but I'm one of the crazy 80s kids that believes that Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, is better than Superman 3. I know.
Well, it's funnier. I'll give you that. I mean, it does have, come on, isn't it funnier? It has so much hilarious stuff, such as the villain is, I grow my nails real long and scratch you. It's really funny. And and Lex Luthor has a comedy nephew who's really wacky. He's one of those real 80s bad guy youths with the flamboyant hair. Oh, I know that.
I didn't say it was good.
It's got John. Come on, John Cryer went on to play Lex Luthor on the CW, so he got to become Lex. You're right. That's it. Superman 4. Where he grabs all the nukes and throws them into the sun.
See, it wouldn't be a podcast with. I was about ready to say it wouldn't be a podcast with me on it if I didn't get you completely off the rails. So there you go. You're off the rails.
It's completely fine.
This is my nephew, Lenny. He worships me.
The dude of steel. Boy, are you gonna get it?
We got the ending of this, I guess, where we find out that in the Book of Jaquan that the shadows.
Do not thump the
Uh,
book.
Do not thump it.
One of my favorite moments in this whole show.
Yeah. And again, Andreas Katsoulis. He
He's
delivers
rubbing his
that line.
temples.
Yeah. He seems genuinely hurt by Garibaldi
Yes.
doing that.
Yeah, I love his physicality in this episode in particular. Like, there's, I think it's in the scene with Jakar and Ivanova, right back at the very beginning, when he gives like a sad little chest thump goodbye.
Oh yeah,
like,
he gives an indignant one, like a real quick like thump by, and he's like gone because
like,
he's like,
I
I'm
guess
over it.
I will give you this sign of respect, but I really don't want to.
A real quick good eating to you, bye. And hey, is that what that means? Like the thump? Is that like a physical way of saying good eating to you? I've never thought about it before. Because he did that when we did in the pilot he did that and a weird little like fist roll gesture. I don't know. He did a lot of things in the pilot and never came back.
Yeah.
Where are Delen's rings? I hope they come back in the reboot.
Mhm.
But what I really like too is Jerry Doyle is so great as Garibaldi in this because he's in full Garibaldi mode. Like when he's flicking through the book and he's just like coming in and he's so cocky with himself. He's leaning on the chair and he's like wagging his finger in the air and he's like walking around and making people demonstrate.
Proverbial.
Yeah, and he's getting Jakar to read this thing and Delen to confirm this. Like he's like, I figured it out, but I want you guys to say it out loud so you realize how fucking smart I am for figuring this out because you guys didn't do it and you guys had all the pieces. I only just got the pieces and I just worked it out. I thought he was great there too, and it was a way of giving. This is a scene where we have exposition and reveals that was executed in a far more entertaining fashion to me than when Bester was going through his tragic love, where there's a lot of dynamics here. There's a lot of people bouncing off of each other. There's humor to it, but then also the shock and awe of, oh my god, this has been planned out since the very beginning of the show. This writer, this creator, really has sat down and thought about this. And that's why I wanted to chuck it over to you, Scott. I mean, you were watching this back in the day. TV, is far more like this now, where we have a lot of people, these showrunners who say to their audiences, oh, I've planned out 5 seasons of this show and now you can watch it. But that wasn't the case as strongly back in the 90s. So, I mean, do you remember what it was like in that way of watching Babylon 5, where you were rewarded for knowing things from like 3 seasons back?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, again, I've watched it so many times now, I've kind of faded in my memory of my original reactions of it because I've watched this show so much. But yeah, it's definitely something to where I think it's what kept me coming back week to week, was knowing that these characters are going to change. It honestly, and I'm going to, some folks are going to roll their eyes, they're Babylon 5 fans, but it's honestly the same reason why I started really getting into Deep Space Nine around the same time, because Season 3, Season 4 of Deep Space Nine started to serialize as well, too, much more than it had been. And I think it did both those shows, ironically being both sci-fi space station shows, really did start moving television to this new place that we're at now. Of course, there was many other reasons why we're here at a serialized golden age, but I think you owe a lot to what Babylon 5 brought to what was going on at the time. And I do know, especially, I have more memories of Season 4 than I have of Season 3 and my initial watch. But as you said earlier, when Sheridan says that we have a weapon, you can kind of get up and you cheer. You get excited that these guys that you have been following for 3 years, if not more, finally have a way to get out of this darkness that they're in. Of course, it's going to get a lot worse for them before they get out of it. But just being able to kind of follow along. And the nice thing with Babylon 5 too is, yes, we get a lot of times now where people, showrunners, like, we have a plan. They really don't. Most shows don't have a plan. And you can argue that JMS's plan was different, it changed, and he then sped it up to get through Season 4 before it got canceled, and so forth and so on. But at least there is an arc, there is a narrative, and when we find our characters at the end, you can trace how they got there. You can't do that with a lot of shows that even pretend to be serialized. So I think Babylon 5 was ahead of its time, but also it did it better than a lot of shows do now.
You hear a lot of these shows be like, oh, guys, I wish we didn't get cancelled. You see, we were planning it to be better in season 3. You had to wait. It's like, well, too bad you didn't make season 1 good, Cowboy Bebop, Netflix. Like, too bad you didn't make it good. And it's like, Babylon 5 still remembered to at least try to make it as good as it could with the skills that they had and the budget and limitations they had. And yeah, it's just an interesting place to look at it when it comes to the TV landscape, because yeah, you had like Babylon 5 just quietly doing this. Like a lot of people, don't know of Babylon 5, and when the people start to look at it nowadays, there are still people who are surprised with how much it was doing this in the time period where it was made. And because a lot of the shows that are heralded for at least trying to do something, or at least shaping modern television the way it is stuff like Twin Peaks and X-Files that did those things too, but not in the same fashion. Like X-Files took a while to get going with that. They would have like Monster of the Week, Monster of the Week, Monster of the Week, Monster of the Week, a lore episode now, Monster of the Week. And Twin Peaks is a different beast, and JMS draws a lot from
different.
And he draws a lot from Twin Peaks. We know this. He's a big fan of that show, and he has had a writer from it work on it. Too bad it was one of the worst episodes of B5. That's fine. And he's had actors and so on. But yeah, it's a thing to consider. And one thing we should talk about before we go to our spotlight section is, guys, the news is back. ISN came back.
You mean the very first scene in this episode?
Guys,
Boy.
ISN is back. Aren't you happy to
that
see him?
actor. Oh my goodness.
Well, she was great though, right?
I give her all the props in the world, because every time her voice comes on, I just want to scratch my eardrums out of my ears. So I think she's doing a wonderful job in being the propaganda agent, because that's exactly what she's going for there. But and we'll see her again, of course. And every time I see her on ISN, I really just want to die.
And
again,
much
she's doing her job well. The actor's great.
Oh yeah, the much approved or much beloved martial law. It's like, oh, you piece of garbage. I don't know why our characters were hopeful. Even Ivanova's like, why did I think this would be a good thing? It's like, a good question, Ivanova. Why would anyone think that? Like, you saw ISN get taken down. Now they're coming back. You really think it's going to be the good old, pure ISN? No. And hey, this also here is letting us know that Earth is still spinning out of control, even though they aren't really the focus of this episode. Like, yes, their actions with the shadows are in part of focus, but this is just reminding you that their fascism is still very much present, and it will at least give us the groundwork for an ISN episode in season 4. That will be a lot of fun to look at when we get there. Let's go into that spotlight section, Rachel, where we talk about an actor or actress that appeared in this episode, go over their performance, what we've seen them in, anything of note. This is a little bit of a lighter affair. There weren't too many people, and the ones that were here we've already done a spotlight on before. Look, if we could do a spotlight every week on Walter Koenig, sure. And if he wants to come on and tell us about himself, Walter, you're welcome anytime. But we are looking at the woman who played Carolyn, or the one who tied herself up into a bunch of electrical cables and shot lightning powers at people with her fingertips.
Vesta's baby mama.
Just let that sink in. Vesta's baby mama. JMS, did you hear that? Put that in the reboot. That exact phrase. Somebody has to say that. And then somebody has to lick their lips and say yum yum in reply. And then I'll know that you listen.
Well, it is the CW.
Yeah.
Carolyn was played by Joan McMurtry. Mick, MURTREY.
Okay. I had a brief rundown of her IMDb, and she's one of those actors.
Oh, and she's in this show, and this show, and this show. And this show. Oh, she was in that?
Yeah.
All 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah, not a lot. Mainly in the earlier part of her career where she had more ongoing work and things, mainly soap operas again. But a lot of just, she was in an episode of Boston Legal. I just watched Boston Legal.
And
I'm
Private
sure.
Practice.
Yeah, I've just watched those. I'm sure that I mean, I definitely saw her in those, but I didn't click my fingers and go, it's Carolyn.
No.
I have done that with lesser Babylon 5 characters, like, it's that person.
It does help when you see their face more in their performances.
Well, okay, you're right. If in Boston Legal, her character went onto the roof and tied herself up in a bunch of electrical cables, yes, then I would have known it was Carolyn. You're right.
You would have picked it way faster.
I would have done that. Look, she's okay in this. She's not given much to do, but we've seen actors, and Scott, you are in season 1, so you can really attest to this. You see a bunch of these actors that come in for these one-and-done things that have to fill out the scenery of an episode. They have to freak out, or they have to be a bad guy, or they are doing all of that, and they just absolutely miss the mark. They're too shrieking, they're too over the top, or they're just too wooden. She has to play something otherworldly here, which is a woman who has like a machine in her brain that makes her want to merge with other machines. And this actor manages to deliver that with a sense of, I don't know, there is a sense of believability to it, and her trying to reach out to Al. I'm sorry, I just can't abide people calling Bester Al, even though I know that his name's Alfred Bester.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 5 on the sci-fi freakout, I give her a 3, maybe a 3.5. I think she does fine with what she's given. As we've already discussed, this is not a major part of the episode truly when she's involved. It's really more about the moving the pieces and the Jakar storyline and the Bester storyline more so than the Carolyn storyline. But I think if she was given a little bit more to do, like being able to even have like somewhat of a conversation with Bester as she's hanging there from the wires rather than just trying to zap people, we'd be able to see more of it. But, for what she's given, it's not bad. She's not going to choose scenery and make it look like it's a tedious scene to have, but there's just not much to work with, unfortunately.
Is there, for you, Rachel, when you come back and revisit this, is there an emptiness to it because Carolyn never comes back? Like, we refer to her. Bester says, "You didn't use her, did you, Sheridan? Or I'll kill you right now." And we know that he will talk to her cryogenic tube, but we never really get more progression on her. Like, she's this thing that exists, and then where she is now is where she is at the end of the show. Like, they never progress with this. This stays as it is.
I know I don't have to care, so I'm pretty checked out.
Yeah.
I'm like, shove her back in the tube and be done with her.
Yeah, fridge her. Yeah, I think that's what makes me struggle with it too when it also comes to this Bester side of him as a character is, this is a thing that exists so that we can set up these telepaths to be used so Sheridan can use them later in a war, and then they can be just something that's acknowledged a lot. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like I kind of would have liked more from this. Anything striking you, Rachel, from her catalog? Anything you noted down? Was she in any Gilmore Girls? Was she in 6 Feet Under?
She was in 6 Feet Under.
Oh, I had to wait. Grey's Anatomy. Was she in Grey's Anatomy? Yeah. Hey, let's keep going. Rachel loves these crappy shows. Let's keep firing. Which one was she in, Rachel? What's another one?
Bones.
She was in Bones with Talia, probably, right?
She was also in Private Practice, which is a spin-off of Grey's Anatomy.
Was she the same character?
No.
How could they?
No, I believe. I didn't fact check this, but I believe that she plays a woman who's in a coma but pregnant.
What? She's Carolyn. Again. And her husband's played by Walter Koenig.
But
talk about getting typecasted.
she's far further along in her pregnancy and she goes into labor, and her husband doesn't want her to have a C-section because he hopes that if she goes through labor, it'll wake her up from the coma.
I mean, the logic's sound, Rachel. It all fact checks. I mean, if it's Grey's Anatomy, then it's got to be true. Did she give birth naturally?
I don't remember.
Did she wake up?
I don't even remember. Like, she's in that episode where that plot happens.
Did she wake up?
I didn't double check that it is her playing that character.
Did she wake up? Answer me. You're leaving Scott and I hanging on this mystery of Grey's Anatomy. We're both salivating.
Private practice.
Oh, private practice. Sorry.
Yeah.
Private practice.
Sorry, I'm not salivating at all on this one. I apologize.
Excuse me. Excuse me. You're not salivating over the storyline of PP, private practice? No, he knows the answer already. He's already watched that episode. He doesn't need to know.
And she was also in a random shitty show that I'm pretty sure I've watched all of called Everwood.
Is it a werewolf show or vampire show? It
No.
sounds like one of those.
No, it's like
Did you have
small town life with interpersonal drama. And I just find it funny to be reminded of that show because we brought this up several times lately, but I am watching Chesapeake Shores.
She in that?
No, she's not in that, but the lead guy in Everwood is one of the lead guys in Chesapeake Shores.
Do you have a thing for him? Is he a hottie?
No.
Why do you say it
Some
like I
people
should
would say that he's a silver fox, but like,
like you said no, like no, Ryan, of course not. Like you should know this.
Should I see myself out at this point? Because do you guys need a minute?
No, Scott. You gotta watch as she tries to wriggle her way out of saying that this old man is not hot.
no. And then the other thing that I noted was that he was in the Tremors TV show.
Yes, with you know who was in the Tremors TV show? Richard Biggs, Franklin. He was in the Tremors TV show. I can't remember if he was a main cast member, but I know he's in a couple of them, or at least one or two. It's like I think it's the only other thing I've ever seen Richard Biggs in, because he's one of those actors where, when I look at his catalog of work, he's really not in stuff that I've seen before. It's like it's Babylon 5 and then Tremors for some reason, and that's kind of just one of the. Even though I'm gonna say out of a cast of actors who plays the humans, he's probably one of my favorites. He's just the one I haven't seen in a lot, but I think that's all I've got. I mean, like I said, she's just one of those was like, oh, she's in this, she's in this, she's in this.
75 credits, I think.
That's a good amount.
Almost all of them are TV guest spots.
Anything for you, Scott? I mean, looking over her stuff, anything pop out? Anything you go, oh, I know her from this, actually, guys. You see, you guys may not have seen these things from the 80s like me. I know that she was in this.
Oh, yeah, Scott's definitely watched JAG.
JAG, it stands for Jets and Guns.
I honestly, I have not watched Jack. I'm sorry. But I do love that, Ryan, you just had to make it to where I am older than you. That's great. I
You
appreciate
made
Since
it
you
that
were
way.
around.
You were like, I was
Since you were
Time Tracks.
around
You know, you're
in the
old,
80s.
man.
Well, Time Tracks was at least the 90s, man. Let's see. I'm looking through her catalog here, and yeah, about that.
And it's like, I know that show.
I know that show.
Yeah, I know that show.
Like Private Practice, right, Scott?
I know Psych.
More Dark Skies than Private Practice, but okay. But yeah.
I didn't know. Is Dark Skies an episode of Private Practice? I don't know.
Oh, well, she was on Remington Steele and Magnum PI, so I'm sure my dad watched her because that was his thing.
Hey, wait. The Magnum PI, that was made by the same guy who did JAG. See, it's all connecting. And he did Quantum Leap too. And NCIS, so there we are.
Infinity bends back upon itself and comes back to the beginning, does it not?
It comes back to the beginning. Rachel, we have a rating system here, a very specific rating system, a rating system that ties back...
Impervious?
Yeah. I would say it's impervious.
Okay.
I don't know who suggested it's impervious in the past, but we've said it is so many times that no one can ever question it. No one can question the Yum Yum system, which is Yum being bad, Yum Yum being good. No half Yums allowed. We can't be like, oh, this episode's a Yum and a half. No. This episode is Yum or Yum Yum. Rachel, you tell us first. You've told us that you've had a bit of a push and pull relationship with Ship of Tears. So where are you with it today?
This is not a perfect episode, but it is good. So it's a yum yum from me.
Yum yum.
I disagree with you. I think this episode slaps, and I'm going to give it a yum yum wholeheartedly.
Yum yum.
I knew this was coming, and I'm like, do I have to actually reference probably the worst line in Star Trek history?
You mean best?
Sure.
You mean best?
Oh, it's distinctive.
You
Whatever
mean
you think
best?
of it.
Oh, I will. Ryan, I think I told you this before, but when I heard Yum Yum uttered on Discovery, I turned to my wife and said, "What the fuck was that?" But
was it as bad or as good as AI sausage? Ew.
They pack a lot
Strange
into
New
that
World's an
end of
amazing
that
show.
season.
Strange New Worlds could use a character. You know who would say it in Strange New Worlds, don't you? Do I even have to say it? You know it's Ortega's.
Oh yeah, that's true. I do. I will give it a solid yum yum because I think this is a turning point episode that definitely gets us into gear for what's going to come with season 3 and season 4.
Yum yum.
I got him to say yum yum. What a fool.
I know you did.
What a fool.
Bastard.
That's why you come onto the podcast. We get you to say it, and you get to smile while you say it.
You're lucky. You're be happy. I am your trained monkey here. Congratulations.
Well, monkey, prepare to dance for us. Tell Rachel and
Yes.
I what we will be watching and discussing next time on Babylon 5.
On the next Babylon 5.
I would love to, sir. So episode 15, Interludes and Examinations. Nothing succeeds like success. Knowing that a major victory over the shadows will convince other worlds to join him, Sheridan turns to the reclusive but extremely powerful Kosh for help.
Oh,
Nothing can go wrong. Nothing can go wrong there.
Nothing can go wrong. Kosh will forever be here. He's always been here. He'll continue to be here after that episode, I'm sure. Oh, we're hitting the big boy territories, Rachel.
I'm not ready, Ryan.
Season 3 had a little bit of a break after Severed Dreams. We had a couple of okay episodes, just some light, fluffy affair. This is a bit more ramping us up into the serious territory. And then next episode and the next couple, well, JMS is just slamming his foot on the pedal there, and we're just revving our way through this innocent street of bystanders. And I cannot wait. Scott, could you please tell us all where we can find you and your podcast?
Sure. If you just for some reason need to have more of me, and who doesn't, you can go to anchor.fm/Gray17podcast. There you can find our feed with all the links, and then also find our links to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of that at anchor.fm/Gray17podcast.
I'll make sure to include that all in the description below. Rachel, what else can people find in the description below?
Links to all of our crap. So, links to our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit.
Yep.
At YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast. But if you really want the Yum Yum action, you gotta head over to Patreon.
Well, yeah. We've got
Where
a Patreon where we do
If you
stuff.
give us money, we give you goods in return.
Yeah, or as we call it, Yumny over there. We call it Yumny over there. You pay us your hard-earned Yumnies, and we give you bonus content in return, Rachel.
Get fucked.
Rachel
Get
looks-
fucked.
She looks so pissed off.
Get fucked.
You look so angry.
Get fucked. Can you kindly
You
get
were-
fucked?
You were like this when I said Yum Yum Energy and Yumlings, and you turned around. I'm going to get you to turn around on Yumny.
But for right now, get fucked. We have a large back catalogue of content. I'm glad you're so happy with yourself, Ryan.
I'm happy with you. So you were saying we have a
We
large
have
back
a
catalog.
large back catalog.
Do we have a short front catalog? I'm sorry.
Yes, we have more content that's being uploaded regularly, including Space Above and Beyond content.
Yeah, we're talking about Space Above and Beyond, Rachel. You've never seen Space Above and Beyond before. I have, so the dynamic to that is
broke
different.
the mold. We broke the mold, but you also get access to a group Discord.
Yeah.
Where you get more of Ryan's jovial nature.
And yours, people can ding you and say, I want to give you yumnies. All the yumnies.
No, people want to give me a prize for my suffering. That's what they want to give me.
You don't suffer on this podcast. Rachel, if you keep talking like that, I'm going to start thinking that you don't like Star Trek Discovery. How could you say that?
Get fucked.
You can email us at yumyumpod@gmail.com if you want to contact us
And
directly.
tell Ryan to get fucked as well.
Or if you wanna show me a picture of all your yumnies. Thank you
Well,
all.
you have been sharing your yumnies.
Oh yeah, with all the ladies.
No,
I've been giving the yumnies out like lollipops. Yeah.
no,
I'm a real charitable guy.
I'm talking about the $5 note, Ryan, that you keep on whipping out.
Oh yeah, the $5 yumny.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I keep whipping it out. It had the picture of what we used to call the Queen on it, and now she's just a bag of bones. A bag of bones, Rachel. That's what we call her these days. No. Thank you all so much for listening to Yum Yum Podcast, and Scott, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today about an episode of Babylon 5. It was such a pleasure to bring you on. And people, I've been on Scott's show in the past, and one day, hopefully, Rachel will have a chance to come on as well. So make sure to go into the description, check his stuff out, and go through the catalog. Yeah, they're making their way through season 1, the golden age of Babylon 5, the third age of mankind. Rachel looked almost as pissed off with that as she did with Yummy. So we better wrap this out. Rachel,
good eating to you.
That's me physically saying good eating to you by smacking my chest. Good eating to you, Scott.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Open invite. Come on over.